I've always was inspired by folks, the founders of different companies, right? That started off developing products. I visited a garage where I first started, and it's inspired me as well. I have the same experience like them. So imagine shrinking all that up and then carry in your wallet. People are wondering, how can you shrink something that size into a card form? There's no battery. How you actually captured the energy in the world itself and then store it into a card. There's a flip side of good side in it, because people are using technology for various reasons, like identity theft. That if you were to lose a card, no one could actually basically use the card. It's just a dummy plastic. They need to have your fingerprint. So we built a lot of semiconductor process are built into it. So the system package involved die bond, we have wire bonding process. So you need to place a finger on the card itself, authenticate the card. So without your fingerprint, there's no way that you can access the card. There are probably, I would say, around 100 components in the card itself. Thickness of the card is only about 700 microns. Penang has been in semiconductor in the last 52 years. It started with 8 companies. We used to call as the 8 samurais that basically started the company. They started Penang in 1972. There are various many ways to how to cost down a solution. One of it is actually miniaturize everything is one way. Second thing is actually to shrink everything into a single chip. If it's a single application, door access, RFID MyFair works very fine. But if you're multi-application, then you need something protective to be secured. The solution to be successful, from what we see, may not be geographical specific. China has moved away from physical ID, but there are some countries still uses physical. You could actually stand aside and watch what's going on and start criticizing. I always believe as an engineer, if you want to make changes, you have to be involved in it.
Welcome Bernard Lim, Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Appscard Global AS, a technology startup with over 27 years experience and multiple tech ventures co-founded.
Bernard is also Regional President for the International Semiconductor Industry Group in Southeast Asia. A professional engineer and active leader with IEM and IEE, his career reflects deep commitment to the semiconductor sector.
His insights into operational excellence, innovation, and nurturing talent are invaluable for understanding today's tech landscape. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome back to the Semiconductor Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Salah Nazri, and whether you are an industry veteran or someone who's just curious about semiconductor manufacturing, this is your podcast. Now, before I start this wonderful discussion scheduled today here live and direct in Malaysia, I want you, yes, you to do me a favor. We have had more than 100,000 views on the show, and there is just about 3,000 subscribers. So I need you, yes, you, to click that subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, and also if you also can share the podcast, the more capable I'll be able to bring great guests like I have today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Bernard Lim, Chief Operating Officer of Appscard. He's also the regional president for us here at the International Semiconductor Industry Group here in Southeast Asia, and is also chair of the Malaysia chapter for IEEE. So, Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Salah. And it was great meeting up with you today.
Yeah. It's been a busy week.
Definitely.
These events, they drain you out. That is for sure. The energy is...
But it's filled with energy, right?
It is.
Even though it drains you out, but it builds up with additional energy by meeting people like yourself and anyone.
And yourself as well, my friend.
Yeah.
Man, it's great to have you here. Bernard, one of the key elements or a very important perspective that one needs to understand is one's career journey. And I always love, talking about not where people are now, but what made them get in to semiconductor manufacturing. When I look at my personal life, it was purely by accident. What was the story for you?
So for me was that it started my journey 30 years ago. working as an engineer coming out, graduating. And basically, starting off working in a Japanese company was my first experience. It was an exciting time. And after 27 years, coming to 30 years now, a different experience I've encountered from it, moving in different companies I've worked with. And one of the journey that I would love mentioning was I've always was inspired by folks, the founders of different companies. Like for example, when we started Sony, who was the founder of Sony? He's actually a technopreneur himself, right? That started off developing products. And another company that's worked with over time was the Hewlett-Packard as well. You know, Bill Hewlett or William Hewlett and Dave Packard. They are actually the story that inspired me to where I am today. Started in a garage, developing products. We're spending only a few $1,000s and eventually expanded to a multi-billion-dollar, right? And that actually inspired me to work towards become a technopreneur myself. And finally, opportunity was given back to me in 2015 and 2017 after working for 20 years in the industry. And that inspired me that how I wish to be somebody like them. Right. And when I visited US, this is the first place I went. I visited a garage where I first started. And it's inspired me as well. I have the same experience like them. I started my first startup company with 5 people in the company itself. And we were like struggling ourselves. We spent lots of hours on developing a product.
Yeah.
And then what happens at the end of the day, everything that we built was like gold. And the reason why we do is that because there's as much as we can do. Right? It's new technology. By the way, the product or the company that I'm mentioning was on a biometric computer in a card. And that's what basically inspired me. And it's not only developing something that is technology challenged, but it's also a life-changing to the industry and contributing back to the society because it helps into addressing cybersecurity as well, right? Digital and also physical cybersecurity because it's a digital ID card that basically built in biometric into it. And it's basically built upon semiconductor basis because it has a computer in the card itself. So that basically inspired me. And not only helping as a technopreneur, is basically also contributing back to society.
Do you tell us more on a technical perspective? What is this biometric computing card?
So on the perspective of that, imagine that how everybody knows a computer, right? A huge size. You have a monitor, you have a keyboard, and CPU, and so forth. So imagine shrinking all that up and then carry in your wallet. So putting in the wallet and carry it around. Now, at the end of the day, people are wondering, how can you string something that size into a card form, right? Which is, if you want to imagine, it would be like your credit card itself. So how do you do that? So we face many challenges along the way. You face issues like how to miniaturize something to that size, and that's one issue. You face things like that because there's hardly any. It's a passive device. There's no battery. How you actually capture the energy in the world itself and then store it into a card. We look into situation like how do you ensure security of the device itself as well, and also protecting the outside world. How do you do this? So many challenges were faced, and that basically builds me into from all the time as an engineer itself. We always move from one situation to another situation, trying to solve problems, right? And that's where our life is. Without challenges we face as an engineer, we kind of feel bored to ourselves, right? There's nothing to challenge us to the next step. So that's why I love doing what it does. It's tiring, but then it has this extra energy in me that pulls myself off from it and how to deal with the challenge that I'm facing right now.
I see. So let's say, if we look at your academic foundation, so, you got a bachelor's engineering, even my brother went to that university in Nottingham-Trent. Yeah. I think I can't remember the halls he stayed at, or something, Tiffin's or something.
There is a couple of halls. I stayed in. There's one in the city. I can't remember the name anymore. Yeah.
It's just, it made me laugh because I've been there. But yeah, so electrical and electronics, and then ongoing DBA studies. How did these academic perspectives blend you into the technical and business leadership?
Okay, so I was always inspired to be an engineer myself. When I was small, back in Malaysia, if a lot of you may know, we used to fill up what they call like a red book ourselves. as a small, we are actually, it's like, okay, what is your ambitions that you like to do? So we fill it up every year. Year after year, we fill up that book. And after when I finished high school, what happened was that I took back the book and I referred to it and say, oh, it looks like I didn't change. When I first started off in the lower secondary, primary school, I've always have that same vision all this while. And I've always been inspired by it. So now basically from there, that's where it inspired me to take up engineering. And one of the basic stuff I like is electrical and electronic engineering, or more electronics. And my area that I've actually built my foundation back in Nottingham Trent was, I was actually specialized in communication engineering, the major in the communication. And in my work itself, what the subjects I studied was actually on satellite design. So you build satellite design. So that was where my basic fundamental was. And then when I came out, of course, opportunity, not every time you're being asked to design satellites. So I joined a company that does optical devices. It's actually from Sony. So I've always been given this opportunity to work in forefront technology. And at that time, some of you may not have seen that device anymore because most people doesn't have a CD-ROM in their computer anymore, right? Even watching
floppy
movies.
disk, man.
Yes.
Those are the days.
So it's interesting. I was just digging through my stuff lately, and I saw the CD-ROM that I made. It was like 4X, and then eventually we moved into CDRW, DVD-RW,
Yes.
and that was where I have given. It's exciting to be in the forefront.
Yeah.
And over time, I worked in many companies. And of course, then subsequently later, I started to say, okay, I want to do something different. So I took up my master's in business administration subsequently later. Now, it's part of the complementing what I do because it's what they call technology management. Not only is business, but it's also technology management. How you manage product development. How do you manage product life cycle? How do you like for example, from developing a product until it sunsets, which basically goes out and obsolescence, right? So it's kind of exciting to see a product that's grown and then later sunsets, and then you build and start back another new technology. So that's always exciting. Of course, finally, I took my next subject that I took was on doctorate of business administration, and my major topic was on technology startups. That's why, because as I mentioned earlier, I was looking into technopreneur, right? So my next step is that why aren't there any back in Malaysia, many of those technopreneurs, it was inspired from Silicon Valley. So why there's not much of it? So eventually, so that's where I studied and looked into how can we expand, enlarge, and develop the ecosystem back in Malaysia that involve deep tech or hard tech startups. And that's where eventually my doctorate was on how to be able to make a successful deep tech industry in Malaysia.
So interestingly, on that point of view, then, what kind of, so for the listeners that are not aware of Appscard, what is the problem that you are solving with biometric smart cards?
Okay. So what the major issue is actually what we call as identity, right? Which is basically it will involve things like identity theft. I was in Semicon recently as well, and as I approached some of the Semicon company, they were asking, not as a customer, was asking what I do. So I explained to them. In current time that we have, technology has evolved so much that there's a flip side of good side in it, but there's also a flip side of bad because people are using technology for various reasons. And one of the latest was on, for example, deep fake that's involved, where people basically imitate, or they call identity theft. Basically, they steal someone's ID for their own benefit. So that's what happened in the world today. So by using such a device that I'm developing in the company itself, we are actually addressing the needs, which is the identity theft. So that basically address issues like, for example, physical and also digital ID, which basically, for example, simple as accessing to a facility, to as simple as logging to your laptop, to your phone itself. So it basically simplifies the whole process and also protect your identification and protect your data. I think in this world itself, we need a lot of those. With technology itself, let's use technology to help our day-to-day life.
Yeah, how does it differentiate to, like, you've got those type of wallets that kind of protect from biometric theft?
So there are various technology that we have nowadays. We have things like, for example, scanning of iris. For example, the most complicated, which is quite costly, but is of course higher security. And of course, from simple as holding a card itself that has your ID or identification in the card itself.
In the wallet.
In the wallet, right? So we were discussing over, a lot of people are worried that, for example, we were just talking about how would someone take hold of your card itself and make transaction without your acknowledgement. And the issue that you face is not only from the user perspective, but also, let's say, for example, the banking industry. Back in the 2015, a study was done in the US itself. Banking itself lost 40 billion due to identity theft, and there's no way at that time to deny that a transaction has taken place. Now, using the card that we are producing this day, that we are doing with Appscard, you can first, from the banking sector, someone cannot deny that the transaction has taken place because it requires your fingerprint to authenticate the process before you can actually start using the card, right? So that's one thing. Of course, to a consumer itself, the good thing is that if you were to lose a card, no one could actually basically use the card. It's just a dummy plastic that is in the market. Of course, on the humor side, imagine someone were to take off your cards, family members to take hold of your cards to do some transaction. They need to have your fingerprint without using it, right? So I think some of you will probably know some of the use case that I'm just mentioning about. So that's the humor side. But on a serious side, it basically protects your identity. And it's convenient. You can keep in your wallet or purse, and then basically, and you carry it around. So that's what benefit to a lot of users.
So what are the semiconductor processes that are used in this card?
Okay. So the way how we build is basically building it from a perspective of a semiconductor base, rather than the conventional card that was built from a physical lamination process, right? That a lot of you probably may have known about it. So we build a lot of semiconductor process are built into it. To a small, simple perspective, some of you probably know system in package. So the system package involve die bond. We have wire bonding process, assembly into SMT base. Then subsequently later, you have lamination process that's involved. So it's a very high complex device manufacturing process that built into it. But at the end of the day, with the current ecosystem that we have in the world today, especially in the semiconductor, there will be still challenges, but it's something that is doable.
Okay. So let's say, for example, I'll have one of these cards. I go to the ATM. Do I put my finger on the card and then plug it into the ATM, or do I go, let's say, actually ATM, or let's say go to the shop, for example? Do I place my finger on the card and then?
Yeah. So you need to place a finger on the card itself, authenticate the card, and then before any transaction will have taken place. So without your fingerprint, there's no way that you can access the card at all. So you need your fingerprint to authenticate the card.
Okay. So let's say, for example, one of the reasons why the tap-on card system has, of course, adopted in a very large way is because of the time.
Yeah.
It saves you from time.
Yeah.
So how do you do it with your card? Is it a tap-on process, or is it it's for the tap-on process, I presume?
So the easiest way application, as what you just mentioned, is the tap-on process. So you tap a card, take, let's say, less than 1 second, 500 milliseconds.
Yeah.
So the same way as this, you probably take a second as well. So the difference are insignificant.
Okay.
So the use case basically makes the process very easy. The only additional process that we added in, because it's a very complex, there's lots of what I call processors involved in the card itself. It has a couple of microprocessors in there, memories in there, and it uses conventional NFC processors, right? With encryption. For example, FIDO2 was actually one of the encryption built into the card itself. So it has the security and it has the ease of use as well. So no difference. A user will not see any difference. So authenticate by taking a card, placing a finger on the biometric sensor, tapping on the device, and then transaction will take place. That's all you need. Now, if you compare those days that we used to do, you either add in the PIN number or you have a signature. So that's how the whole process works. But now without a PIN number, it has the security that you need from a user perspective and also from retailer, and you tap on the device, and then basically the transaction will take place. And you can actually manage the transaction depends on value as well. You can have 2 or 3 fingers, and there are many perspectives of use case that you can use with the card 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and so forth.
So, from a miniaturization point of view, how have you managed to be able to fit just... So you got a board. Basically, you've got to create a board
Yes.
in the size of a credit card.
Yes. So unfortunately or the fortunately for us is that the card has the standards, right? The ISO standards that govern the size of the card, because there's lots of device in the world.
Yeah.
Banking uses that. So you have to design our product to fit into the existing standards. So you have to put components in the card itself. And on top, you have to miniaturize everything down. So most of it, you can't even look at it through your naked eye. You probably need to miniaturize everything. So there are probably, I would say, around 100 components in the card itself. So imagine shrinking everything. And the thickness of the card, sorry to make it a little bit more technical, is only about 700 microns, 0.7 mm. So how to shrink everything there, put a microprocessor like a computer in there, put a memory in there, put a sensors in there, and without even using a battery. How do you get everything running in that way? So that's the challenge that we face, but of course we are very happy with it. We have finally managed to achieve where we are. So we are doing some work right now with some customers, and hopefully we can, in the next couple of years, we will be able to ramp this thing up.
So on a 0.7 micron perspective...
0.7 mm.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, millimeter.
Millimeter.
Or 700 microns.
Okay. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So if you look at it from that thin layout,
yeah,
wouldn't the challenge also be the printing on top of it as well, or let's say just trying to lay? I mean, how have you actually managed to get? Let's say, I presume you've got some fingerprint sensors in there.
Yes.
How have you got them so small?
Yeah. So as we play in the microelectronic worlds, so it's how to get everything squeezed into that small miniaturized insights. So you have to work with the different ecosystem. You have to work with different suppliers that is able to provide the size that you need. You work with different processors, which we basically were very fortunate to have different companies that we work with, different materials that we work with, and also different size components, semiconductor process, of course. You do involve grinding, you polishing it into small thin size. Most of the ICs that we have are a size of almost what can be found on your thumb drive, for example, right? In thumb drive itself, it's the same. You have a small component, or even your SD-RAM memory. So it's a quite equivalent process that what works out to be.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's exciting, challenges, but exciting. That basically keeps me motivating moving forward.
Wow. What type of memory are you using in the card?
So we basically, memory is an option. We can have probably a NAND flash, for example, for higher capacity. Or you can actually use, for example, EEPROM, for example, if you want lower capacity. So it depends on options. It's an option for the customer.
So what's also ideal to understand is how is your Penang-based R&D operations facility set up?
So overall, as Penang has been in semiconductor in the last 52 years, so we have created a great ecosystem. It started with 8 companies. We used to call as the 8 samurais that basically started the company. They started Penang in 1972. So the large multinational came over here, developed the ecosystems to support the industry itself. And over 50 years, they have actually developed a large ecosystem base. They have the talent that required in semiconductor, both not only in the manufacturing, tests, and product as well. So with this itself, we basically bring together the talent required. Now, of course, a lot of you will probably be questioning that we have a lot of issues with talent, where a lot of challenges are faced because not enough talent. But at the end of the day, if you look closely, you can actually get the talent you need. That looks into firmware development. You can look into process development, which basically helps eventually build the card that we have today.
I see. Let's say, for example, going back onto the technology side of things, I want to get a little bit more technical. What are the main technical challenges that you're finding with this Appscard solution? if we were look at 3 areas which are going to give you a lot of headache, and I assume you still have these headaches: form factor, power, data security. In embedding reliable biometrics into a smart card format, which one is giving you the most headache?
There is no one among the 3 that you just identified would be the most challenged, but over time, as we start developing, miniaturization started initially when you have a proof of concept device. So miniaturization started off with that issue. After miniaturization, you have to look into how you manage power, right? As I mentioned, there's no battery in there. This is a passive device, right? So that's the next challenge that one face. Then after doing that is how basically you are ensure that you actually package the device that you can protect the device itself when used. And of course, eventually it's the use case that's important, right? So it's all this goes along the way as you develop a products. As any other development of high technology items, you always face different situations as you develop it. So what is most important is focus on end in mind and basically work it out one at a time and looking at a technology solution available in the market to help you out. And I'm very grateful that we have basically a good ecosystem, not only in Malaysia, but other parts of the world as well.
Mm-hmm. So, as a bank, and looking at these type of solutions as being, looking at it, trying to save costs. That's what's the key thing in their mind, right? Having this Appscard that you're working on, and you've got so many devices, you've got all types of sensors, gyros maybe, accelerometers, a little bit of battery maybe, memory as well, processing unit as well. You put all of this together, it's going to come up to a certain amount of cost. How do you make it appealing and justifiable for a bank to invest in such a solution?
So,
especially when they're dealing with millions of customers and they have to provide an Appscard to each of these guys.
So if the main purpose on the application are just for a simple application, then I think this is not the right device. We always have to focus on the right market, right? Then of course, if you have to look at the bigger picture for the bank itself, if they look how much money do they lose from credit card fraud, it's a big number and it's growing year to year. Now, if you amortize, let's say 40 billion over a duration of the number of users, it's a huge number. So a bank needs to take a look at the bigger picture. Now, our market is not targeting the banks for now, but we have always explore. I've actually introduced this solution back in 2017 to them before. And of course, their expectation was too costly.
Right.
Of course, when it's too costly, there are 2 things that you can do. One is you can tone down, or you actually scale down what is required. That's one way to do it. And second thing is the volume. They have the volume, right? So, and in supply chains or manufacturing, a lot of you will know the ways that we move to reduce the price is by volume. That's when you have higher volume, you are able to tone it down. And of course, there are many ways to how to cost down a solution. One of it is actually miniaturize everything is one way. Second thing is actually to string everything into a single chip. There's also another way to do it. So there are many ways to skin a cat on how to cost down. The only way is that how can one adopt a technology, willing to adopt a technology, then things will be able to come out the right way. Yes, cost will be always a big issue, especially for the banks. And, for most of the world itself, the banks basically practically give you the credit card free of charge.
Well, there's a catch now. If you get the credit card, sometimes some of them, they make you pay an annual fee, or you get a monthly charge. So I don't think there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah.
But so who is the target market? Who's the one, like priority one? Who's jumping on this?
So our target market are mainly folks that is looking for digital and physical ID on a bigger scale. Like for example, they are concerned about private security of data. They are concerned about not only access but also security of data itself, because digital signature, for example, one of them. So we are looking at someone that has multiple application. So it's not only a single application, because if it's a single application, door access, RFID work, MyFair works very fine. But if you're multi-application, then you need something protective to be secured. And you don't have to invest a lot of devices. You only need to invest in one card per person. And that's all you need to do. And you can rest assured that it maintains the security of your whole company itself. Right? So that's the good thing about what the solution will provide to you.
Okay. Could you highlight key milestones in your technology roadmap?
At this junction right now, we spend a lot of time in the development. So we are actually looking into probably in a couple of years to able to upscale or the product that we have. And hopefully that if you have any questions that you have, feel free to contact us. We are doing a trial now, but it's very selective right now. Before we actually, because at the end of the day, we do believe that we need to do the right thing and the right time. So of course, we do face many technology challenge that is actually are challenging the technology right nowadays. Like for example, different solutions. But at the end, we are confident that the solution they provide will provide a very comprehensive, both digital and physical ID protection to our users itself.
Nice. Having co-founded several Penang startups in specific, what common pitfalls and success factors have you identified from transitioning from concept to a sustainable business?
I think if you ask most of the startups in the world itself, they'll probably say money is probably one of them.
Sure.
But I don't believe that. As I mentioned earlier, my doctorate was in technology startup. One of the biggest challenge is basically what I call the ecosystem. It's not only money, it's basically collaboration. One of the things that a lot of companies face is collaboration among the ecosystem. The supply chain, the mentorship programs, the financing, the customer. So it's actually a total ecosystem. So for most of the pitfall, a lot of companies is that first thing, they are good in the products, but they don't have a customer, right? Or they are not good in marketing. So you need a balance of all those things together. And on top of that, of course, money is important financially to basically have a longer burn rate so that you're basically able to be successful. So it's persistence. Of course, technology, hard tech and deep tech is a different perspective because you require a bigger headroom versus a software-based B2B software. Is a shorter headroom, so we require a longer headroom. If you go to medical devices, you have even longer headroom as well because you need to get it qualified and certified. So these are things that we need to be patient. And of course, we have new things coming out, so we always have to new challenges, face new devices or new technology that will compete against your own products.
Yeah. So from your perspective of the business as from a COO standpoint, I presume that you're also involved in strategic partnerships. Are there any strategic partnerships that you can be able to share that Appscard is working on, or is that something that's confidential for the time being?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's at this moment it's confidential.
Okay.
As time goes by, we're definitely able to share more details. But at this moment, because some of these the customers would like to keep it confidential.
Fair. That's fair. Now, talking about professional leadership and community roles, that's one thing that you're known for is giving back to the industry and wanting to support the ecosystem as a whole. Not only you're COO of Appscard, you're also the regional president of our International Semiconductor Industry Group board in Southeast Asia. You are chair-elect of IEEE Malaysia section, and you're chairman of IEM Penang branch. Why do you do all of this, and how do these roles influence your approach to the industry or the ecosystem as a whole?
Okay. Yeah, it's a good and interesting topic. I was talking to a few folks these few days as well. You could actually stand aside and watch what's going on and start criticizing or basic comment about something. I always believe as an engineer, if you want to make changes, you have to be involved in it. So for me, basically, it doesn't have benefit to me in the company, but I love developing ecosystem because, like for example, one case, I do a lot of advisory in universities itself because you can actually complain that you don't have good graduates coming out from a university. You can actually criticize and walk at the fence and just talking about it. But for me, I have an engineer, I've been brought up as an engineer. My best way is to get involved, be part of the ecosystem, help the ecosystem, tell them what is the right thing to do, and eventually make change, right? Rather than standing a fence. So a lot of the voluntary work that I do right now, I'm now not only the branch, I was a past chairman of IEM Penang branch now, or what we call Institute of Engineers Malaysia. I'm actually the current one of the vice president of Institute of Engineers Malaysia as well. So of course, I played many roles, mainly getting the industry participation because we can't work as a single entity, right? In whatever that we do in life. Now as a technopreneur, you need to work collaboration in an ecosystem. If one of the, what I call the trigger leg, one leg were to fall, it's not that the thing will be still standing. You need 3 legs to work, or you need multiple functions to come together to be successful. So collaboration is important. Working together as a team is together. So that's why I always believe participating is very important. So I contribute a lot of my times into this area. And indirectly, some of these things do help, for example, developing the network to help the technology that I do. Or by involving in IEEE, for example, I basically meet friends that eventually could be either friends or a customer as well. So everything comes together. It may not happen what you see now, it can happen in the future.
I agree. Looking at the adoption curve of the biometric cards, where do you feel that the geographies, I mean, you mentioned a bit on the end markets, but if we were talking about the end markets and geographies, which one do you and your team feel that which region will expect to adopt the technology first? Do you guys have somewhere in mind? Are there certain drivers that are making you say, right, this geography will find the most value in this?
So the solution to be successful, from what we see, may not be geographical specific as well. If you refer to China has moved away from physical ID to a phone-based ID, right? Everything is, you don't even carry cash anymore. It's a cashless society. Right. So they may not revert back to using a physical ID anymore, but there are some countries still uses physical. My personal opinion is that looking at perspective of the world, in the world itself, you may eventually revert back to have a physical ID. And what's most important is ease of use, right? For example, one question that all of you could ask yourself, how frequent do you change your phone, right? If you put ID into a phone, and first thing, of course, the second thing is that how many people lose their phone as well. So if you were to depend on only a phone as your ID, so I have one experience before as well. It's very interesting. My friend was sending me to the airport, and I was carrying my phone. My boarding pass was there. My IDs was there as well. So as I was taking my bag from the booth, I left my phone in the booth of the car, and I left. And I started to look for my phone. I can't find my phone, and my boarding pass is the phone. And I want to call my friend to take my phone from him. I can't remember his phone number because we are so depending on technology. Everything is in the phone, right? And then what happened was that, I managed to get someone's phone, but I do not know the number. So eventually what I had to do, I've so much hassle that I have to go to the counter, get a new boarding pass, but then my phone is left and I can't call anyone. So technology is a good in a way, but sometimes we are too dependent on it as well. So I think physical ID will come into being. Maybe not all the countries, no specific country in particular. So wherever countries that felt that there's a need, then there's a solution available in the market.
Fair play. Bernard, thank you. And the next part of this discussion will be a rapid fire question where you can, basically try to answer in the most shortest way possible. preferably one hand. Oops. What's one word your team would use to describe your leadership style?
Decisive.
First job you ever had?
Engineer?
Coffee or tea to kickstart your day?
Coffee.
What's your secret productivity weapon?
Who? You?
What was that?
You.
You? What's that?
No, I mean, you say what? The first.
Oh, yield. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Yield. Yeah. Who's your business role model?
Hewlett Packard?
Hewlett Packard. Look at that. Actually, yeah, he built a great building at Stanford. I'm not sure.
I know.
Really nice. What's the boldest decision you've made at Appscard?
Working in Appscard.
If you weren't in tech, what industry would you be in?
Anything new? Forefront.
Okay.
That's what I'll be involved.
So, like today, what would that be in today?
Today, I'll probably be in biometric.
Biometric, something new. Okay. Hardest lesson learned as a COO?
Technology challenges.
Okay. What's one myth about being a COO that needs to be busted?
Good question. Time. That means it takes a lot of your time.
Takes a lot of your time. One trend in digital payments you think is overhyped?
Probably cashless society.
Fair. Well, we could go a bit deeper on that. Blockchain in payments, real game changer or still noise?
Game changer.
Is cash really dying or would it make a comeback?
I think cash will be dying.
What's the one thing most people misunderstand about Appscard?
Good question. Company. What does it do?
What does it do?
Yeah.
Fair play. If you could fast forward 5 years, what would Appscard look like?
The company that produces a biometric card. ID physical card, yeah.
Who do you think will disrupt the semiconductor industry next?
I think at this juncture it'll still be AI.
Yeah. Singapore chili crab or Japanese omakase?
Chili crab.
One book that changed your life?
There's one, Destructive Innovation.
I've not read that.
Yeah, it's by Christensen. What's his name?
Yeah. Really. What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
My many involvement in a lot of things.
As in?
Like for example, some of the organization that I involve.
Okay. Yeah, you are involved in a lot of organizations. If you could ask your young self one question, what would it be?
Actually, I'm happy with what I have, and basically what I involve in. I was very fortunate to involve in many technologies, so I probably say that continue to move forward with what you do.
Bernard, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to understand about, I don't know, Malaysia's role in global secure ID, semiconductor ecosystems, or something that you want to share out there?
I think the world itself moving in area where collaboration is key. There's no one identity that one fights upon. Southeast Asia, for example, Singapore works with Malaysia with Indonesia, Vietnam, and so forth. So I think at the end of the day, we have to look in a perspective that the world is large enough, the market is big enough in the semicon, so that all of us can collaborate and work together. So I've always believed that collaboration is key here.
Yeah. Bernard, I want to just say thank you for all the support that you provide us here in the region. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for all that you do for the ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Salah, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak a little bit on what I do. Yep. And I hope that it could be able to inspire more of the young engineers coming up to engulf into technology in space. And I hope that every success to everyone that is listening right now.
That's the purpose of the podcast, my friend. That is the purpose. Thank you so much, Bernard. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Semiconductor Leadership Podcast. If you want to get in contact with Bernard Lim, you can contact him on his LinkedIn profile just down below here. Like I said, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share and like and subscribe. And to anybody out there working in our industry, remember, it takes a village to raise a chip. So until the next episode, take care and bye for now.